Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiri Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text number 10 onwards. I think it is from 10 onwards. Utkramantam stitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam vimudanan pashyanti jnana chakshusha. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. The word Gyan Chakshusha is very significant. Without knowledge, one cannot understand how a living entity leaves his present body, nor what form of body he is going to take in the next life, nor even why he is living in a particular type of body. See, this is very important. The Gyan, knowledge is very, very important. Otherwise, we are in complete ignorance, thinking I am this body. If we have the knowledge, we can understand how the living entity, how the soul is going to leave this body, what kind of body he is going to get next life, and why he is living in this particular type of body. In ignorance, we think I am this body. This body is this is my existence. This is my whole soul identity. That's it. And when my identity is going to have any problem with your identity, I'm going to fight with you. And I'm going to try to annihilate your identity. That's what is going on. Animal life, this is what goes on. One dog thinks I'm better than the other dog, I'm more powerful, and if that dog comes in my area, I'm going to bite him, I'm going to try to kill him, I'm going to run him off. They don't understand what is soul and what is body. But this is what we have to develop. This is Bhagavad Gita. This knowledge is what we have to develop. The Prabhupada says, this requires a great amount of knowledge understood from Bhagavad Gita and similar literatures heard from a bona fide spiritual master. One who is trained to perceive all these things is fortunate. Every living entity is quitting his body under certain circumstances. He is living under certain circumstances, and he is enjoying under certain circumstances under the spell of material nature. As a result, he is suffering different kinds of happiness and distress under the illusion of sense enjoyment. As a result, he is suffering different kinds of happiness and distress under the illusion of sense enjoyment. It's all illusory that we gonna enjoy the senses. We go through both. Basically, go through. He's suffering different kinds of happiness and distress. One very nice sentence. He's suffering different kinds of happiness and distress. Happiness that we receive or that we achieve or attain these days is what? Basically, some sense enjoyment and some satisfaction of mind. Comfort for the senses, the gross senses, and some happiness or satisfaction of the mind. And we think we are happy. If it is too hot in Delhi, if it rains, I am happy. But if it rains too much, I'll be miserable. If it rains and if again doesn't rain for a week, I'll be miserable again. This is not real happiness. This is just giving some comfort to the body. That's all. When it is too hot, we come inside our homes and we turn on the AC. I'm so happy. No, we are just comfortable. Happiness is at the level of soul. That is the real happiness. But since we think I am this body, so our happiness is connected with the body, and whatever comfort we can give to the body, we think this is giving me happiness. And next moment, it will give me sadness. It can. And Prabhupada says, as a result, he is suffering different kinds of happiness and distress. Wow. Under the illusion of sense enjoyment. Persons who are everlastingly fooled by lust and desire lose all power to understand the change of body and their stay in a particular body. They cannot comprehend it. Those who have developed spiritual knowledge, however, can see that the spirit is different from the body and is changing its body and enjoying in different ways. A person in such knowledge can understand how the conditioned living entity is suffering in this material existence. Therefore, those who are highly developed in Krishna consciousness try their best to give this knowledge to the people in general, for their conditional life is very much troublesome. They should come out of it and be Krishna conscious and liberate themselves to transfer to the spiritual world. So there's a beautiful conversation between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramanand Rai when Mahaprabhu went to South India. Of course, there are many esoteric topics, but one question was, what is real happiness? And Ramanand Rai said, association of devotees is the real happiness. Because that gives pleasure to the soul. In the association of devotees, when we carry out devotional service, different types of devotional service, it really gives happiness to the soul. And that is a real happiness. Otherwise, in the material world, people think they are happy. They spend money, like now the weekend is there, they'll spend money to go to clubs, to go to bars, to go to, maybe it's too hot in Delhi, go to maybe a hill station or some other place. Didn't think we're really happy. But going there, coming back, it's suffering, earning money to go to hill station, again, lots of issues, lots of problems. And even by going there, what will happen? It will just give some satisfaction or comfort to the eyes, to the skin. Maybe eat something, it will give some satisfaction to the tongue. But is it real happiness? If it is real happiness, we won't want to come back. But come Sunday evening, they all want to run back to Delhi because now they have to make money. And those who are living there at hill station, they want to run away from there because there's not enough money. So everybody is miserable everywhere. That's why it is said grass is greener on the other side of the fence. People think they come to America, they'll be very happy. But they don't know people living in America, how miserable they are. And people in America think, oh, Trump is a president, let's move to Canada, we'll be happy. Well, what's happening in Canada? They don't understand. So this whole material world, Krishna has designed like that. It's dukkhalayam. It's supposed to give us misery, supposed to make us suffer. Why? Then and then only we'll try to get out of it. Otherwise, we will not even think of getting out. If I'm comfortable in my life, why would I want to take a bhakti? So this is all. And that's why Prabhupada says, those who are highly developed in Krishna consciousness try their best to give this knowledge to the people in general, for their conditional life is very much troublesome. They don't know it yet. That's why we, um, devotees of ISKCON, we get we get blamed that why do you guys come out and give us Bhagavad Gita on the streets? So many times I have met Sikh Sardarjis, and for them, of course, from their viewpoint, they're completely right. They say it's a disrespect towards Bhagavad Gita when you're wearing shoes and you're holding on Gita and trying to give it to everybody. Your boxes of Bhagavad Gita are lying on the street, and your feet are touching it. From their viewpoint, they're perfectly right. Gita um, is non-different from Krishna. It's a Vani of Krishna. So it's not different from Krishna. How can we touch our feet to the box which is containing Bhagavad Gita? Yes, it is wrong. But this is the order of Srila Prabhupada. And Krishna will be more pleased if we go on the streets and distribute Bhagavad Gita, because then this knowledge will reach so many different houses, so many different people. People don't know they are suffering. It's like we are taking the medicine out in the street and trying to give it to people. They still don't know they are suffering. But we plead to them, please take this book and try to read it. So this is the activity of people who are in Krishna consciousness. And this is what pleases Krishna. Krishna himself says in 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, this is what pleases me most. And that person is most dear to me who gives out this knowledge to others. Text 11. Yatanto yoginaschainam pashyantyatma anyavasthitam yatanto api kritatmano nainam pashyanti achetasaha. The endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try. So this self-realization or the transcendentalist activity, it's not just for each and everybody. One has to be really making advancement to see all these changes. Or sometimes we see it when we read Prabhupada books, and as soon as we stop reading or the class is over, we forget. We have to bring it into practice. We have to internalize these teachings of Bhagavad Gita. Internalize that, yes, at least we start seeing from the level of soul. We should. And then we will see our whole outlook has changed. Not the outlook mailbox, the really outlook has changed. There are many transcendentalists on the path of spiritual self-realization, but one who is not situated in self-realization cannot see how things are changing in the body of the living entity. The word yogina is significant in this connection. In the present day, there are many so-called yogis and there are many so-called associations of yogis, but they're actually blind in the matter of self-realization. There's so many societies, so many associations, so many so-called yogis, but they themselves don't have any connection with God. How can we expect that their followers will have any connection? And they're actually blind in the matter of self-realization because they're not beyond this level of I'm this body. They're simply addicted to some sort of gymnastic exercise and are satisfied if the body is well built and healthy. So they don't do yoga, they do yogasanas, which is good for the upkeep of the body, but that's not the ultimate aim of life. They have no other information. They are called Yatanto api akritatmana manaha. Even though they are endeavoring in a so-called yoga system, they're not self-realized. Such people cannot understand the process of the transmigration of the soul. So they cannot understand soul, and they cannot understand that we are different from the body, and so many things of self-realization. Only those who are actually in the yoga system and have realized the self, the world, and the Supreme Lord. In other words, the bhakti yogis, those engaged in pure devotion, service, and Krishna consciousness, can understand how things are taking place. Just like we were discussing in Srimad Bhagavatam, the journey of Vidurji from Hastinapur to different places of pilgrimage, and then finally to Vrindavan. And look at his realizations. He says, "Oh, whatever happened with me, it's all being mercifully arranged by Krishna." And this is what Bhagavatam says. So only one who is self-realized, he can understand it. He can come to this kind of conclusion. Otherwise, people can keep on complaining. People can. That's why there are so many court cases. There are so many lawsuits because everybody feels he is a victim. If Vidurji was thinking he was a victim, then I don't know how many court cases he would have filed by now. But he never thought. He thought everything is mercifully arranged by Krishna. So that's a thought process. That's a way a person thinks who is self-realized. Text 1. Yadaditya gatam tejo jagad bhasyate akilam yachandramasi yachagno tat tejo vidhi mamakam. Now Krishna is trying to tell something about himself. So now we read about soul, the energy, the material nature. Now he's talking about self. These are three things of self-realization. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me. And the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me. So without the sunlight, without the moonlight, what can we do in this material world? Nothing. We open our eyes and the sunlight is there, and sunlight is there, and then we can see something, though we won't even be able to see anything. So as soon as we see sunlight and moonlight and the fire, splendor of fire, Krishna says, also from me. Nobody can live without eating, and eating means fire has to be there. So whenever we see sunlight, whenever we see moonlight, whenever we see fire, we should think of Krishna. This is only by mercy of Krishna this is coming. And he says, I'm the splendor of the sun. This is not just mercy of Krishna. We should feel this is Krishna. Of course, Shamsundar form is different than the sunlight or the moonlight. But this is all energy of Krishna. The unintelligent cannot understand how things are taking place. But one can begin to be established in knowledge by understanding what the Lord explains here. Everyone sees the sun, moon, fire, and electricity. One should simply try to understand that the splendor of the sun, the splendor of the moon, and the splendor of electricity or fire are coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So right now, we all are using electricity to run our mobiles, to run our laptops, to fans and lights in the house. We have to understand it's coming from Krishna. We take it for granted. That's the problem. And that's what doesn't make us grateful towards Krishna. It makes our heart very hard. Only a humble heart can be grateful. Not a proud person. In such a conception of life, the beginning of Krishna consciousness, lies a great deal of advancement for the conditioned soul in this material world. The living entities are essentially the parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. And he is giving here with the hint how they can come back to God and back to God. So this is what a devotee is. He sees Krishna everywhere. He sees him in the sunlight. He sees him in the moonlight. Just like Prahlad Maharaj, he was seeing Krishna even in the pillar of the palace. We have to develop those kind of eyes. From this verse, we can understand that the sun is illuminating the whole universe. There are different universes and there are different suns, moons, and planets also. But in each universe, there is only one sun. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 10:21, the moon is one of the stars, Nakshatranam Aham Shashi. Sunlight is due to the spiritual effulgence in the spiritual sky of the Supreme Lord. With the rise of the sun, the activities of human beings are set up. They set fire to prepare the foodstuff. They set fire to start the factories, etc. So many things are done with the help of fire. Therefore, sunrise, fire, and moonlight are so pleasing to the living entities. Without their help, no living entity can live. So, if one can understand that the light and splendor of the sun, moon, and fire are emanating from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, then one's Krishna consciousness will begin. So if we are not at this level of understanding how everything comes from Krishna, our Krishna consciousness hasn't begun yet. Even though we might be chanting so many rounds, but our consciousness has to improve, our thought process has to change. And that is the way to begin Krishna consciousness. By the moonshine, all the vegetables are nourished. The moonshine is so pleasing that people can easily understand that they're living by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Without His mercy, there cannot be sun. Without His mercy, there cannot be moon. Without His mercy, there cannot be fire. And without the help of sun, moon, and fire, no one can live. These are some thoughts to provoke Krishna consciousness in the conditioned soul. So this is how we start. And in previous chapter, he says, Rasomapsu, I'm the taste of water. So whenever we drink water, everybody has to drink water. We should think the taste is Krishna. And there's so many other things, how we can remember Him constantly. Text 13. Gama vishyacha bhutani dharyami aham ojasa pushnami cha oshadhi sarva soma bhutva rasatmakaha. I enter into each planet, and by my energy they stay in the orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. So here he is confirming about the moonlight. So first he said, I enter into each planet and by my energy they stay in the orbit. So it's not the gravitational pull, what the scientists claiming, that's why the planets are floating in the sky. But where did this gravitational pull come from? They cannot explain that. They are just given a name to the energy of Krishna, but that doesn't mean they have a copyright or a stamp or a patent on that energy. That's the energy of Krishna. He clearly says, I enter into each planet, and by my energy they stay in the orbit. If Krishna withdraws that energy, scientists cannot create a gravitational pull again to make that planet float in the sky. Heck, they cannot even make a little aeroplane fly in the sky without the proper fuel. And fuel is energy of Krishna. It is understood that all the planets are floating in the air only by the energy of the Lord. The Lord enters into every atom, every planet, and every living being. This is discussed in the Brahma Samhita. It is said there that one plenary portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, enters into the planets, the universe, the living entity, and even into the atoms. Andantarastha Paramanu Chayantarastham means he's in each atom and in the space between the two atoms. He's there. So due to his entrance, everything is appropriately manifested. When the spirit soul is there, a living man can float on the water. But when the living spark is out of the body and the body is dead, the body sinks. So this everybody has experienced, or at least read about it or seen it. Of course, when it is decomposed, it flows just like straw and other things, but as soon as the man is dead, he at once sinks in the water. Similarly, all these planets are floating in space, and this is due to the entrance of the supreme energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His energy is sustaining each planet, just like a handful of dust. If someone holds a handful of dust, there is no possibility of dust falling. But if one throws it in the air, it will fall down. Similarly, these planets which are floating in the air are actually held in the fist of the universal form of the Supreme Lord. By his strength and energy, all moving and non-moving things stay in their place. And even if we look at just the Earth planet is one of the millions and millions of planets floating in the space. Now, if you just look at the Earth planet, it's been rotating in the same orbit, at the same speed. It's tilted at its axis, and it's the same tilt is there since beginning of creation. And if somebody tells me nobody's making it move, nobody's making it stay in its the same orbit, nobody's making it tilt the way it is tilted, then that person really needs a Nobel Prize. How is it possible that nobody is doing it? My car doesn't go from my house to my office on its own. I have to drive it. So a living entity, a living energy is needed to move the material energy. Now there are automatic electric cars, Tesla, available in America. So they say, oh, that drives on its own. We don't have to do anything. But somebody has put together that computer system to make sure it drives on its own. So it means that brain is there to put together all the system. But when it comes to Krishna's creation, people are not ready to accept that there is God who is doing all this. It is said in the Vedic hymns that because of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the sun is shining and the planets are steadily moving. Were it not for him, all the planets would scatter like the dust in the air and perish. So if it was not up to Krishna, all the planets would scatter. They won't move in their orbit at this given speed, and it will just create chaos. Everything will completely disintegrate. Similarly, it's due to the Supreme Personality of Godhead that the moon nourishes all vegetables. Due to the moon's influence, the vegetables become delicious. Without the moonshine, the vegetables can neither grow nor taste succulent. Human society is working, living comfortably, and enjoying food due to the supply from the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, mankind could not survive. So Krishna has wonderfully made arrangements for everybody to survive. The word Rasatmakaha is very significant. Everything becomes palatable by the agency of the Supreme Lord through the influence of the moon. So because of moonshine, there's juice in the fruits and the vegetables. And this was one of the arguments of Prabhupada. He said, because of moonshine, there is so much of juice in the fruits and vegetables, and these scientists who said they have gone to moon planet and they didn't find any vegetation there on the moon planet, it's simply nonsense. Because of moonshine on the earth, the fruits and the vegetables, they become tasty. So how come on the same moon planet there is no vegetation? How is it possible? And then Krishna goes further, text 14. Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamashritah Pranapana Samayuktah Pachami Annam Chaturvidham. I am the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities, and I join with the air of life, outgoing and incoming, to digest the four kinds of foodstuff. So Krishna says, I am the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities. It's not like when we overeat, we're going to digest this by taking some putin hara or hajmola and this and that, and it will work. It might work. I'm not saying it won't work. But that fire of digestion comes from Krishna. And for some reason, if somebody's fire of digestion is very low, then he will contract some diseases. According to Ayurvedic Shastra, we understand that there is a fire in the stomach which digests all food sent there. So somebody will ask me, how come there is fire in the stomach and we don't see? What does it mean, there is fire in the stomach? Well, actually it means that is why our body is warm. Always warm. There is fire burning somewhere. Fire might not be in the form of fire that we see, but it might be in the form of element, one of the five elements. And that element becomes more prominent when the digestion is required. When the fire is not blazing, there is no hunger. And when the fire is in order, we become hungry. Sometimes when the fire is not going nicely, treatment is required. In any case, this fire is representative of the Supreme Personality of God. Vedic mantras also confirm that the Supreme Lord of Brahman is situated in the form of fire within the stomach and is digesting all kinds of food stuff. Therefore, since he is helping the digestion of all kinds of food stuff, the living entities, not independent in the eating process. So even digestion cannot happen without his mercy. So food cannot grow without Krishna's mercy, Krishna's intervention, because again, that's all energy of Krishna. Even earth is energy of Krishna. And we try to grow food in that. Rain comes by mercy of Krishna. And then the food we cook on fire, which is again energy of Krishna. Krishna gives us the intelligence by which we can cook different varieties of food. That's also energy of Krishna. And when we eat that food, that eating process is also energy of Krishna. Strength comes from him. And then when it is eaten and it goes to the belly, and then the fire of digestion starts working on it to digest all the food that we have eaten, that's again energy of Krishna. Where is something that we can claim it's mine? It's all Krishna's actually. Unless the Supreme Lord helps him in digesting, there is no possibility of eating. He just produces and digests food stuff. And by his grace, we are enjoying life. So this part we have to come to the level of admitting that by his grace, I'm enjoying. And not just by saying it, really meaning it, really feeling it. By his grace, we are enjoying life. If we ask anybody, oh, how are you? Oh, by mercy of Krishna, I'm great, I'm fine. But this is just for saying. It's not for acknowledging that mercy. In the Vedanta Sutra, this is also confirmed. The Lord is situated within sound and within the body, within the air and even within the stomach as a digestive force. There are four kinds of food stuff. Some are drunk, some are chewed, some are licked up, and some are sucked. And He is the digestive force for all of them. So anytime stomach is upset, pray to Krishna. Text 15. Sarvasya chaham riti sanivishto matta smritirjnanam apoham cha vedashya sarveraham nirvedyo vedant videv chaham. Now he's trying to say something more about himself. I am seated in everyone's heart. Sarvasya chaham riti sanivishto. And from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Very important words. Even in our thought process, even in our remembering anything, even in knowledge, that people are very proud of their knowledge. Nothing, we are not at all independent. We are always dependent upon Krishna. Krishna himself says, from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness also. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta and I am the knower of the Vedas. The Supreme Lord is situated as Paramatma in everyone's heart, and it's from Him that all activities are initiated. The living entity forgets everything of his past life, but he has to act according to the direction of the Supreme Lord, who is witness to all his work. So we can forget our past life. Or it's by mercy of Krishna we forget our past life. But Krishna remembers everything. Therefore, he begins his work according to his past deeds. Required knowledge is supplied to him and remembrance is given to him. And he forgets also about his past life. Thus, the Lord is not only all-pervading, he is also localized in every living individual heart. He awards the different fruitive results. He is worshipable not only as the impersonal Brahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the localized Paramatma, but as a form of the incarnation of the Vedas as well. The Vedas give the right direction to people so that they can properly mold their lives and come back to God and back to home. So the purpose of Vedas is to know Krishna. Purpose of Vedas is to help us understand who Krishna is, who we are, and what's our relationship. That's the whole purpose of Vedas. And if somebody, after reading Vedas, he doesn't come to this conclusion, means he hasn't read the scriptures. He hasn't read Vedas. The Vedas offer knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And Krishna in his incarnation as Vyasadeva is the compiler of the Vedanta Sutra. The commentation on the Vedanta Sutra by Vyasadeva in the Srimad Bhagavatam gives the real understanding of the Vedanta Sutra. The Supreme Lord is so full that for the deliverance of the conditioned soul, he is the supplier and digester of foodstuff, the witness of his activity, and the giver of knowledge in the form of Vedas. And as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, the teacher of the Bhagavad Gita, he is worshipable by the conditioned soul. Thus, God is all good. God is all merciful. But we forget our relationship with Krishna. And in fact, when we want to forget, the desire is that Krishna supplies that kind of energy that we forget our relationship with Krishna. By understanding Vedic literature, one can understand his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By performing the different processes, one can approach him. And at the end, one can attain the supreme goal, who is no other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In these words, the purpose of the Vedas, the understanding of the Vedas, and the goal of Vedas are clearly defined. So, I think I'll stop here. I'm feeling very tired today. So if there's any questions or comments, we can go with that.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. It was nice, very nice class.
Thank you, Anta.
Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. So we'll stop here. You all have a wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Jai Shri
Jai